Hello and welcome back. Today's senior moment is about knowing and learning. We all know so many different things. Each of us, depending on who we are, knows different things. Maybe you know about Bluetooth, or I have an iPhone and I know a lot about how to use an iPhone, and people know about geography. Some of you may know what the Pantanal is. It's a place in Brazil. So we have geography, different types of work, doctors, medicine, farming. There's so many things that all of us know. We know about mathematics and how to read and write, hopefully all of you. Well, and you probably know English, otherwise you wouldn't be understanding me very well, would you? And so there are all these things we know, and there's two different kinds of knowing. But before we get there, what I want you to think about is everything that we know, we learned somewhere. Somewhere, somehow, whatever it is that you know, you had to have learned it. You weren't born knowing 2 plus 2. You weren't born knowing where Johnny lives and who Johnny is and what's a Johnny in the first place. So that's an important component. And later when we get in more into knowing's a big philosophical thing. It's actually one of the oldest things that people have been thinking about in the Western world. But let's leave that alone for now. Just think that if you know something, you learned it somewhere. In this photo, I'm about to learn what it's like to strap on that hang glider behind me and run off the top of a mountain in Rio de Janeiro. Now, what kinds of things did we learn? What kinds of things do we know? We know things like I said, 2 plus 2 is 4, etc. And there's a different kind of knowing. And those are things like, what's the temperature outside today? What's the cloud cover? What's the humidity? Those kinds of knowings are different than, is it a nice day outside? See, when you measure the temperature, everybody looks at the thermometer, they say, okay, it's 72 degrees. Some of us will say it's a nice day, and some of us will say, no, it's not such a nice day, it's too cool, or it's too warm. So that's a different kind of knowing. And those knowings, they've all been learned. That's the really important point. So as we go through this knowing and learning, we need to begin to see where and when we learned what we know, and who was the teacher. I mean, some of these things like, is it a nice day? If you learned it, how did you learn that 72 and a certain cloud cover and humidity is a nice day versus a bad day? So how does that happen? Where do we pick up this kind of learning? And who taught you? Somebody somehow taught you. Friends, TV, radio, a video game, the types of things that you know, you learned, you had a teacher, and you may not remember who the teacher was, and you don't know if the teacher was right.